Hey everybody, welcome back to my craft room. Today I am going to show you how to make this 6x6 mini album. This album I had done as a gift album for my oldest and their best friend who came to visit this past September. And so I'm making two of this. So this is the one for my oldest, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to make the one for their best friend. I've done a walkthrough video of this. So the album is, there'll be a link to the other video. So it's 6x6 with about an 1 3/4 spine. I have a little magnet closure, and then I've got roughly 7-8 pages in this, and I'm going to show you how to make the album base, and then I'm going to do some basic decorating of the pages. All of the supplies that you need and the basically supply list and cut list will be in a PDF that'll be linked in this video description. So let's get started. So the basic supplies you're going to need to create the album base is going to be a piece of 12x12 chipboard, kind of a medium weight chipboard. You'll need 2 to 3 pieces of 12x12 kind of medium weight cardstock. I use this to wrap the album with once I create it, and then several pieces of a heavyweight cardstock. Usually I go for about 100 to 110 pound cardstock with this. So let's get started with the chipboard. So bring out my trimmer. One thing I want to note, I use 2 different blades when I cut this. This is my normal paper blade, so I'm going to take that out. I have an extra blade that I've marked with a C. It's a little bit of a duller blade, and I do this because it tends to cut the chipboard a little bit more cleanly. So I will rotate out when my regular blade kind of gets a little dull. I'll rotate that into use for cutting chipboard. So one thing to note about the chipboard, it has a direction that tends to be a little bit more bendy, and then if you turn it, you have one that's a little bit more stiff. This is the one that I want to use for this. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are 6x6. Now I always try to start at the bottom and work my way up, and I always try to make sure I use this particular line to butt up against. So I'm going to go up. And because this is a little bit dull, it's not going to cut all the way through, so I'm going to flip it over, put it back in, and then I'm going to do another cut from the bottom up. I'll put that aside because I'm going to need that. Now, one thing I want to make sure that you also do, and I do this with mine when I'm working with something that's relatively square, is that I want to make sure I mark which end is basically the up direction, so that the more firm direction. So I'm going to put a little arrow here, and I can put it here because it doesn't make a difference whether it's up or down. And then I'm going to cut 6 here, flip it over, one more. So now I have my 2 6x6 pieces. And then I'm going to need a piece that's going to be 1 3/4 by 6. So I'm going to cut this down to 6. Make sure it's in the right direction. Oops, scrap. So I want to make sure I'm going in, this direction. So I'm going to cut this 1 3/4. Flip it over. So there's my basic pieces for the album base. So I'm going to do a little bit more cutting before we start to assemble. So I am going to want to cut the cardstock base, and so with this album I'm going to need to cut several 6x6 pieces. So I have 2 here, 3, 4, 5. So that's what I'm going to cut with this. And I'm also going to cut 2 pieces that are need the page pieces, which are going to be 6.5 inches wide and 6 inches tall. And I've got some, what I call, what do I call them? Seam covers. And these are going to be 6 by 6. So I'm going to cut those from my, so I'm going to put my arm out on this. So I'm going to cut 6. I use this blade for cutting my the thick cardstock as well, just because. So there's 1, 2, there's my 5 pages, 6.5 by 6 inches, and then I'm going to do my 2 pieces for my seam covers on the front and back. These will be 6 by 6. So what I'm going to do is I need 2 pockets. So I'm going to use the 2 of my scraps to cut them at 7 by 4. Scraps out of the way. Now I'm also going to do some tags in this album, so I'll cut those later, but those are basically 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. You need 4 pieces of that, and again I'm going to use my scraps up for that. So I'm going to start walking you through. Oh, I almost forgot one thing. I do need to cut from my scraps here a piece that is going to be kind of what we call a gusset hider, and that piece is going to be, just want to double check my sizes, so that will be 2.5 by 6. So there we go. All right, so we're going to start to assemble this. What I'm going to do is take 2 pieces of my 12 by 12 medium weight cardstock, and I am going to adhere them together. I use score tape for most of my projects. Just find the end of my roll. There we go. And I'm going to put this on one end. Now, one thing I usually do, I take my bone folder out whenever I'm using score tape. I'm going to use my bone folder, and I'm just going to kind of run it along the edge. Just gives a little bit, keeps it really adhering well. So I'm going to take this edge off. Sorry, the cover off. I'll just line this up. And I'm going to go over it with my bone folder, and I'm going to then put this aside. Now I'm going to take my pieces of chipboard and I'm going to put score tape on them. I'm going to hold it on my score tape with the bone folder. Move these out of the way. Bring back my wrap. Now I always want to make sure that this seam is going to be on the back cover of the album, so I just want to make sure that it's on this side, and I'm going to start working from the left to the right in placing the pieces. I have a little tool set here, oops, dropped one, that I use, and it basically helps me to kind of line up my pieces. So I'm lining this up with the corners of my paper, and I'm going to start with my front cover. And sorry if there's any, my husband's out there leaf blowing, so you may hear some noise of him out there doing that. Hopefully it's not too distracting. So you can, if you don't have a tool set like this, you can use a ruler and pencil mark, any kind of guide you want. I like to keep this in at about 1 inch on the side and on the top. So I'm looking for my arrow here because I want that to be up, so it's going in the right direction. So I'm going to place this down. I'm going to put it there. Move that out of the way. And then I have another tool. This was a bookbinding set I found on Amazon, and I can provide a link to this if you want. This gives me, placing this here is going to give me the right width between that piece and my spine. And it's roughly 3 thicknesses of your chipboard is what you want that dimension. So if you have scrap chipboard after you've done cutting, you can always kind of sandwich 3 of them together and use that as a spacer in between. So we're going to put this in. Use it one more time. Back. Oops. That one come off. And I'm looking for my arrow, so that's going to be the end that goes up. I'm using a spacer. Okay. Screw that down. All right. So I'm just going to go over all of this with my bone folder. Make sure it's adhered. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly bring in a mat, because what I'm going to do is I need to cut off my excess and cut my corners. So I'm going to bring a cutting mat in, since this background is not quite what I want to use. And I do use this template again, so that's going to fit in here. And I've got a little X-Acto knife. You could draw a pencil line. I just use the X-Acto knife to run down, and then I use that to cut that off, and then I'm going to cut this piece. And then I get through. Yep. And I'll just flip it one more time to cut the rest. All right, that cuts away my excess. Now what I'm going to do is cut the corners, and I use another little tool from the set. Okay, now that I have that all cut, now we're going to finish wrapping this. So I'm going to take my score tape again, and I'm going to put it all around on the chipboard as well as the outer edge. Okay, now that we have this here, now we're going to start wrapping. One thing you're going to definitely make sure you go over all of your score tape with your bone folder. Okay. I start with my long ends, and what I'm going to do is first I'm going to start without removing the backing yet. I just start to kind of fold this in, and then I take kind of the blunt end of the bone folder and just kind of run it along the edge just to help with the creasing. So once you have it ready, I always start from the center and work my way out when I'm adhering it. I'm going to repeat this on the other long side and then the two end sides. Okay, now that I have my album wrapped, what I'm going to do is just kind of curl up the spine so I can kind of just make sure I get a good crease there. So that's the basic album, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to first add the gusset hider, which will be this piece, and this is basically, like it says, it's going to hide this part of the spine on the inside. Place this here. Use my bone folder to get a nice crease in here. So that's gonna hide that. Like I said, it's a gusset hider. So it's meant to hide that. Just go over it. I like to go over this, get a really good crease. There we go. Now the next piece is going to be basically my seam covers, and we're gonna put these on the front and back covers. These are our 6x6 pieces, which we're gonna put some strong adhesive, and we're gonna put them right there. There's the basic outside, inside of the album. Next, we're going to be adding our pages. For this, I just need to do a little bit of scoring to add it before we add the pages and the pockets. Oops, just gonna get some of my scraps out of the way. So I need my scoring platform. You can always use a scoring blade on your trimmer if you have one. So what I need to do is all 5 of these pages, I am going to score on the 6.5 side at 1/2 inch. My five pages, and now I want to score my 2 pieces for my pockets. These are, remember, 7 inches by 4 inches. I'm going to score it 1/2 inch and 6.5 inch on the 7-inch side. I'm going to rotate it, and on the 4-inch side I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay, so now we're going to add our pages. So we have a pocket on the inside of the front page and an inside of back, and then we have the rest of our pages. So what I'm going to need to do is fold all of these on the score line. And I'm going to put strong tape on all of these. What I did when I created this is I did first page and the last page, put those in, and then I put the middle page in between, and then I added my flip outs. So I'm going to line this fold up just a tad in from the score line. It just makes it easier to close. So that's page 1. And then I'm going to add the last page. And in this, so in the first page, what I did is I put the fold line I used to line it up. On the last page, I'm using my end of my piece, just slightly in from the score line on the seam, just on the binding. So now I'm going to place my next piece in between these two. And I'm going to line this up just with the edge of the fold line from my first. Line that up. So there's the basic 3 pages in it. So you could leave it like this, but I added 2 additional pages that are flipped out. So I'm going to attach the next page to the outer side of my first page. And I'm lining this up with the edge of that first page, and this will be so it flips this direction. So when this is opened, this will flip completely out, and my last page I'm adding is going to be here, and it'll flip in this direction. This flips out like that. So those are my basic pages. Now I'm going to add my pockets. I've got my 2 7x4 pieces that I scored, and I'm going to fold along the score lines. And then what I'm going to do is actually with this, I cut away the corners down here. And then I'm going to cut away. The angle is at the top. I'm going to do that on the other pocket, and then I'm going to put my score tape on my tabs. I'm going to adhere these on the inside of the front cover and the back cover. And there is my basic 6x6 album with my pages and my pockets. Next up, we're going to decorate the front cover, back cover, spine, and the pages. Okay guys, so it is time to decorate our album and the pages and the cover and the spine. So I'm going to walk you through this. I will make sure to have all of the, again, like I've said, all of the cut list and the supply list is going to be a linked PDF so that you can see, so you know, don't worry about writing down what I'm saying. You'll be able to get all of this information. So we need to start with the strap. That is our first piece of business basically that we're working with here, because that has a magnet in it that is inside the, sandwiched in between the pattern paper and the cardstock, and then it's underneath this front piece here. But then also on the back, the strap wraps around and it's underneath our back paper. So we're going to start with that first. So what I am going to do is, and you have to, these are magnet pairs that I've bought off of Amazon. I am going to put it on the back of my, just get these apart. So because I want to make sure that these get set up correctly so that when they get together, they don't repulse each other, they magnetize. So if you try to put them together incorrectly, so that stays together if you can't tell. So this is going to go on the back. Oops. Just going to make sure that I got that right. The back of this pattern paper here. Put that right there. And then I just want to corner around these quickly. Make sure I got lined up. And I'm going to corner around this. Corner rounding is kind of an optional. Okay. And I'm going to use some score tape to adhere this to my heavy cardstock. Oops. On the edge of the roll. There we go. Up. I'm going to use my bone folder to just kind of give a little bit of a curve to this as I'm starting to put this together. It'll just make it easier to do it. So I'm going to now, because I want to make sure this is in the right position, so that's where that piece is going to go. But it's going to basically go, whoops, underneath this. So I'm going to basically line this up, pull this off, line it up where I want it to be, place this on the back. So now this is secure from there. And I'm going to just put that over, remove the backing from my magnet. Sticky side's going to attach to the back of that DSP. And put it in place. Just make sure it's in the right spot. And it just pulls itself down basically. So there's my magnet for my strap. Now I can remove this, and I'm going to add this piece here. Okay, now I'm going to add some my score tape to my spine, and I typically try to really cover my spine because I want it to really adhere, and I'm going to slowly add it to it. I'm going to work my way around the corners, and I'll show you what this will look like. Okay, so I've really covered the back of my spine. That adhered on there. I'm going to remove a few rows of score tape. You don't want to just lay it flat and put it on. You want to kind of roll it as you are adhering it to the back, because then that way it won't crack or rip along the spine as you are opening and closing the album. So I'm going to put this on here, and then I'm going to slowly bring this up so that it starts to get the corner look of the back. But this will keep it nice and even. And then remove a few more rows as I work my way around. Go a little flat here because it is the back. And then the last piece, I like to kind of softly, gently kind of guide it. There we go. And this will just keep it, because you know how when you open a brand new book you hear that crack of the spine. I know it's a wonderful sound sometimes, but eventually it will start to wear away the paper. So I'm going to open this slightly, and there. Okay, now before I add my back panel, I'm going to now go back to my strap. Now I'm not going to pull this tight to adhere it. I'm going to give it a little bit. See, I've got a little bit of a gap. This is where I'm going to run the bone folder over it just one more time, just to give it a little bit of more of a curve. There we go. That, because these pages will eventually get a little bit thicker as we go, so I want to give it some additional room to grow basically. I think that's about it. Yep, that should work. So now I am going to take some more score tape, put this on the back of my strap. And carefully kind of fold this over. Like I said, giving a little bit of room for when you add your embellishments to your page. And you can always curl this. Like I said, I use the bone folder sometimes to kind of curl paper. It softens it up a little bit, but you still have the strength of the thicker cardstock. And there we go. Now I'm going to add my back piece. And I'm just going to carefully line this up. On the back. And now I'm going to add my two kind of little gap pieces. All right. So there's my cover. You can decorate this however you want. I'm not going to really add all my little embellishments on this, but I have this best friends title part that I created on the Cricut, and I have some tags and some stickers that came with the paper collection I used. And then I did add some twine around the spine on this. But I want to get moving on this so you can see each of the pages as I did them. So we're going to open this up, lay this out flat, and I'm going to start to add my page elements. So the first couple of pages, and just moving my pieces. So each, like I said, you're going to need 12 pieces of double-sided pattern paper that are 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. This is going to be for your basis of your pages. And then the extras will be your photo mats and any additional pieces. I'm going to just use my regular adhesive for these. This first piece kind of slides into my pocket. Slide it down. There we go. And then the next one. This page here. And what I have to embellish it is, so on my pocket. This piece is roughly, I'm just going to look at my sizings. This is 5 3/4 wide by 3 inches tall. So, sorry, I have to look off to the side. Oops, just got some pieces sticking out of the bottom. And I have a extra little gap piece. Tie the two pages together. And then on this page, I have this is a 1.5 inch by 5 3/4 inch strip that I'm just going to adhere here. And then before I put my photo mat, I've got a little bit of, I found some cute doilies. My photo mat. This photo is a 3.5 by 5. And then I've got some little circle pieces. I'm trying to make this the same for both of them, so I'm going to open up my sample. So, tuck this slightly under. Oops. Down. Okay. I've got a little bit of decoration on this side. And then I've got tags. To do my tags, I've done 4 tags, 2 in the front pocket, 2 in the back pocket. I'll walk you through how I make my tags. So I have one piece of the thicker cardstock that is the 110 pound. This is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. Then I have a piece of white and a piece of pattern paper. These are 3 by 4. So what I did is I marked to create my tag corners. I just use my mat to do this. And I'm gonna cut in between my markings, cut my corners. And then I'm gonna use this to help me cut my white. Now what I do when I create tags so that the corners come out nicer is I'm going to put the front pattern paper on first. Then with my scissors, I'm going to cut my corners to create that, and then flipping it over, I'm going to check my white to make sure that that lines up, just making sure I know which side. There we go. Because not every corner is always perfect. There. And then I have a couple punches that I use. This is a 1/4 inch punch and a 1/2 inch punch. I use that to create these kind of little eyelets. What I do is from scrap paper, I'll punch the 1/4 inch hole so that I can see it, and then I'll line up the 1/2 inch to kind of create that little eyelet. But right now I'm going to punch my basic part of my tag out, and then pull my adhesive out, and do that on my tag. I like having these little eyelets. Just kind of finishes off your tag. You could use your, glue or whatever, but so I have 2 of these for the front pocket and 2 for the back. Just slip that in there so we can move on to the next page. So we're going to work our way in. My next page is this set of papers. So I've got my first piece. I did this a little backwards. This one, I had that as my second set, but on this album, I'm making it my first. And I've got this. Line that up. And then I've got my, so I double matted this piece, this photo. This is a 3 by 4 photo, so I've got a 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 white mat, and then a 3 3/4 by 4 3/4 piece of cardstock. And that is going to go here. Did these just a little different, and then I've got my embellishments. I used a 1/2 piece of doily with this one, just trying to conserve things a little bit. I'll tuck that under. And then I've got my tags for this. These came with an ephemera pack that went with this pattern paper. These slightly under. And then I added a little journaling box at the bottom. That's one. And then on this page, I have my mats. I have two 3x4, I mean a 3x4 and two 2x2s for photos. Put it in a little bit too far. Push this over just a little bit. There we go. I'll be adding these embellishments later. But one thing I did want to show you is I do have a kind of a strip here that is a little bit, it's showing some of the spine. So what I'm going to do, and I'll come back to this later, is I'm going to cut a piece of my pattern paper, this pattern paper, and what I'll do is I'll do this to kind of cover the spine. And then I'm going to go inside here. I realized I didn't cut the doily for this, so I will add that later. But just so that you guys can see, I've got my embellishment pieces, which are going to go on here. So I'll just stick these in. You guys have to forgive me, I always, mistakes happen. And then that. And then on the last page with this, I've got, so this is for a 3x4 photo. And then here I've got, again, another 3x4 and two 2x2s. And again, you don't have to cover this with a piece of pattern paper. I did, just from the standpoint of I like the look of it, just went a little bit of a thing. All of these little kind of tabs that you see, these little banners, that's just from some scrap cardstock. So I cut those out, and then some of these are stickers and some are ephemera that came with the collection I'm using. So that's the next, that's the first set of pages. Now I'm going to work my way over to the next. This, putting a few pieces aside. The first page is this. I thought this was going to be a fun little album to do for my oldest and their best friend who visited us. This is, again, I double matted this 3x4 photo. I have my little minis. Again, I've got some embellishments here. I'm just trying to pull out the right pieces. Oops. Got a whole bunch of pieces. Tried to pre-cut a lot, and like I said, I will include all of these cutting sizes and everything in the supplies list and cut list. And I added some journaling strips, and again, another title there. And the next page. I mean, you can decorate this however you want, really, for any situation. Oops, get my. And then these pages, I did a, sorry, I gotta do a refill. This is what happens doing this live, and I need to grab another refill from my tape runner. Bear with me, everybody. So on this one, I did 4 2x2 photos, and then I added some banners and some titling. I'll work my way inside. Here, so I've got several mats, and this, I did more photos with this layout, set of layouts, than I did with the others. So in this, I've got 4 2x2s, another 4 2x2s, a 3x4, and then I added one more 2x2 here. I'll add some. I usually leave a little bit of gap at the edge. My fingernails just don't want to go under there. There we go. And little circles. And then again, I did some extra pattern paper for some banners. Fold that in. And now we're on to our back cover and last page. So my pieces off to the side. There. And then this is again one that kind of slides in, tucks in down. Get this all the way down. Yep, there we go. And I've got my pocket. This piece here. Another 1.5 by 5 3/4 strip. I used a border punch on this. And then, I think my photo mat is missing, but I'll show you what it looks like. And this is what happens. So I try to be prepared, but that's what your last 2 pages look like. And so I'll walk you through this. So I'm going to put this aside since I have some additional things to do to finish it. So I added some banner strips on the front. Like I said, I wrapped some twine around the spine, and I got my title for the album, and then I've got my tags that I created. Added some stickers from the pack and some more ephemera for titles for each of the pages, little banners here and there. Oops, flip this over. Next layout. And so this came out really cute. It was fun and easy to put together. And I hope you guys liked it. And if you create something like this, please let me know. I'd love to get some feedback and love to see how you do with this, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't yet, I'd love it if you'd like and follow my channel. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.